ProbStats kids. This is Dr. Callahan with week 12, Thursday. I hope you guys had a wonderful Veterans Day off. So go ahead and pause the video and answer the following 3 questions for your warm-up for week 12, Thursday. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this. What do snowmans eat for breakfast, courtesy of my little boys? Frosted Flakes. What do you call when a Santa has no money? St. Nicholas. What did one snowman say to the other snowman? Do you smell carrots? That's my favorite. And what kind of a bird can write? A penguin. How is Christmas alphabet different than ordinary alphabet? The Christmas alphabet has, I honestly cannot even read that, so I don't know. What do you call a snowman party? A snowball. Duh. All right, you guys. So you guys had 2 questions for your homework from week 12, Tuesday. Those were the 2 questions on box and whistle plot in terms of skewness, whether it's skewed to the right or to the left. So they're just worth 2 points apiece. Altogether is 4. So go ahead and correct your homework on the homework template. Next we have is this part here, which you have this paper in class. And so looking at this, go ahead and assign yourself points. It's going to be a little bit more than 30 because this part right here actually is worth 40. So it'll be a little bit more than 30. Or, yeah, 30. All right, so this is the breakdown for today. We actually are going to get started with Z-score on page 13, which is an important part of statistics in any research, really. We're going to be finishing the entire unit today. The packet is due on Friday, which include all the homework from Unit 2. And when I see you guys on Friday, I will be giving you guys a brand new packet. Or if I don't see you on Friday, you'll get a brand new packet on Monday. So you also have a quiz on section 2.5, part 2, which is the last quiz of this unit. Your homework tonight is just 2 questions, 48A and 50, and that is your breakdown for today. All right, so turn over to page 3, please. And it looks like this. I'm sorry, 13, not 3. All right, so let's take a look at this. So a normal standard a standard normal distribution has a mean, which is not going to be equal to anything. Your standard deviation is always going to be 1, and you're going to be numbering your bell curve from the mean right here in the middle, okay? And it's going to be at the center. And then you have +1, +2, +3 standard deviation on the right, and then -1, -2, -3 standard deviation on the left. A standard z-score represents a number of standard deviation, a given value of x, and how far it is from the mean, which is u. Use a transformation of the score to fit a standard normal distribution means that 0 and the standard deviation of 1. A unusual score or a outlier is more than 2 standard deviation above or below the mean. And remember when we talked about shoe size, like Shaquille O'Neal was in the 3rd standard deviation above the mean because he wore a size 23, I think. And I think the average is generally like a size 11 to 13. So he will be an outlier. I remember when we talked about Lil Wayne, he was actually at the 2 standard deviation because his shoe size is a 7.5, which also Kevin Hart is also shorter. So his shoe size, I believe they said, was an 8 as well. All right, so we're going to talk about example 1. You're going to need a highlighter, and you're going to be underlining, bubbling, and boxing the important information. So go ahead and read example 1, highlight or underline or bubble or box the important information because there's a lot of numbers and a lot of things going on at once. All right, so let's take a look at this. So this is my highlights and everything of the important information. And so you have 2 Academy Award winners, Forest Whitaker for The Last King of Scotland, which was an amazing, amazing film, one of my favorite movies. And then Helen Mirren, who won the Academy Award, which is the highest level of acknowledgement for actors and actresses. And we're kind of looking to see at what age they actually win this title. And so for Forest Whitaker, we're going to find his Z-score, and your Z-score is always going to be the age minus the mean over the standard deviation. So we know that Forest Whitaker at age 45 won the Academy Award. On average, most men will win that at 43.7 years of age or 44 age. And the standard deviation is 8.8 years. So that's how far each winner is different from their age, which is actually a pretty high difference if you think about it. So then grab your calculator and then go ahead and find me the Z-score. So subtract and then divide. So I have a Z-score of 0.148, which is actually pretty small, which means that each of the ages are going to be pretty closer to the mean age of somebody winning an Oscar that is a man. So if I were to go ahead and draw this, if this in the center is the mean, and the mean age of somebody winning the Oscar is at 43.7 years old, Forest Whitaker's X score is right there, okay, or I'm sorry, Z score is at 0.148. So what does that mean? That means Forest Whitaker is pretty close to most of the men that actually won an Oscar at 43.7 years of age, which is the average. He is just a little bit older than them, but not by much because the Z-score is relatively small. It's 0.148. It's like almost 1/10 of the entire thing. Now let's go ahead and focus on Helen Mirren. Okay, so Z-score once again is Helen's age, which is going to be 61, minus the average age of a female actress. And interesting enough, it's 36. That is actually very young to win an Oscar. And I would know because my age is fairly close to that. And so grab your calculator and subtract and then divide. And you should have a Z-score of 2.17 years. Okay, so what does that mean? That would indicate that Helen is 2 standard deviations above the mean, which means she's significantly older when she won the Oscar than her average counterparts of women that usually win the Oscar. So on average, women are about 36 years of age when they win an Oscar, and Helen Mirren is 1. Okay, this pen is not working. 1 standard deviation, 2 standard deviation. So Helen is at 2.17, so she's like right there. So she's fairly above the actual mean, okay? So C says, go ahead and compare your results. Whose age was more unusual? So go ahead and pause and answer that question. Express your thoughts. It is subjective, so you're not going to get marked incorrect. I would say that Helen, because she is further away from the mean, she is at 2 standard deviations above, and Forest Whitaker is much closer to the average of people that actually get a Oscar for men. Also keep in mind, for outliers, it must be 2 or -2 standard deviations above or below the mean, which Helen would be considered an outlier. And next, the question is Helen, or the answer is Helen because her Z-score is 2.17. She's an outlier. Most actresses are not as old as her when they win an Oscar, but it doesn't really matter because she is still amazingly beautiful and she won an Oscar, so you're never too old. All right, for C, if I were to go ahead and compare that visually, this is Forest Whitaker. He's much closer to the mean, or to the average. Helen Mirren is obviously an outlier, so she's a little bit older. Okay, example 2. So I'm going to go through the same exact process, and I want you guys to go ahead and highlight, underline, bubble, or box the important information for example 2. Okay, so these are the important things that I bubbled and I highlighted. So let's go ahead and find the z-score of somebody's weight, okay? So the weight is 140 pounds. The average weight here is 180. Divided by the standard deviation of 15. So it's a plus or minus 15 pounds. So then go ahead and divide that. And is your z-score going to be a positive or a negative? You should have a negative 2.67. Is it an outlier? Yes, it's an outlier. And if I were to go ahead and draw this, I will label my Venn diagram, my bell curve as this is the mean, and then negative 2.67 is going to be at this location. So there's -1, -2, -3. So mine would be a negative 2.67 right there. And that will be my z-score at 140 pounds. So it is below weight. All right, for B, let's take a look. My weight is 195 minus 180 divided by 15. Go ahead and calculate that. Is it a positive or negative? You should have a z-score of a perfect 1. This is not an outlier because in order to be an outlier, it has to be a positive 2 or -2, higher or lower than that. So then if I were to visually draw this, my mean is right there in the center. And since my z-score is going to be at 1, perfectly at 1, this is where my z is. And then my pound is going to be at 195 pounds, which is exactly 1 standard deviation above the mean. Now 180 for C, your z-score is going to be 180 minus 180 over 15, which is just going to be 0. So that's going to be the mean, and it's also 180. So it's exactly at the center of this, exactly at the mean. All right, outlier. So keep in mind that if it's more than 2 standard deviation, it is an outlier. All right, guys, I'm gonna have you go ahead and do a little bit of practice. And so the first thing to do is you are gonna go to this link to Quizlet. So I'm gonna click on that and then I'm gonna new share it with you guys. So once you go ahead and type that in, you're going to be answering 24 questions. It's going to ask you if the mean is 88 and the standard deviation is 22, what is the score if the z-score is 2.1? So you're going to go ahead and tell me, and it's multiple choice. So go ahead and give that a try. And there are 24 questions. You can go ahead and show your work on a separate piece of paper. You can also use your calculator, which will make things go a little bit faster. So yeah, go ahead and give that a practice. When you are done with that, let's go back to this. I want you guys to go ahead and take a focus on this. Read the 2 different questions carefully on the Quizlet. So the first question says, if the mean is 88, standard deviation is 22, what is the score if the z-score is 2.1? So this question is asking you z is equal to x minus average over standard deviation, okay? So it's given to you that the z-score is 2.1. So you put 2.1 here equals x, which is what the data is, minus the mean is 88, divided by the standard deviation of 22. So notice how I set this question up. Versus, here is a second question, and it says mean is 15. So the score is 16, minus the mean, which is 15, over the standard deviation 1, which is equal to z. So take a look at how these questions are set up. The first one's asking to find the x, but they're giving you the z-score. The second question, they're giving you the x, but they want you to find the z-score. So it's important that you know your algebras pretty well to be able to do this. So if I take a look at the first one here, first thing I want to do is I want to multiply both sides by 22, so I can get rid of it. Cancel, cancel. And then next, I want to add 88. So my x is going to equal to 22 times 2.1 plus 88, whatever that's going to equal to is your answer. On this case, it's a little bit easier actually. 16 minus 15 is 1. 1 divided by 1 is just 1. So there's actually no manipulations of the variables to solve for x. So be careful with that. All right, next what I want you guys to do is take a look at this paper right here. If you're at home, you are welcome to go ahead and just do this on a separate piece of paper. That's totally fine. Here, I'm going to ask you guys to go ahead and on the math portion of the SAT, the scores are roughly normally distributed with a mean of 500 and standard deviation of 100. I want you guys to go ahead and answer the following questions in regards to a bell curve. When you're done with one, go on and proceed on with question number 2. Number 3 is all the way over here, and then question number 4. Now, when you're done with the Quizlet, make sure you guys are reflecting on your experience right here. And lastly, your SEL for the day is to answer the following questions. I have 6 of them. You can go ahead and pick any 3. All right, you guys, that is it for week 12 Thursday. As always, I hope you guys are having a wonderful day and stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you guys in person next time. Take care.